People in the room here. Just in case you're new, we have extra supplies in the closet. Make sure you have a cushion that works for your body. Generally speaking, the more flexible your hips are, then you don't need such a high cushion. But if you're like me, or you have some stiffness in your hips, and you might need an additional height in order to sit cross-legged. And we also have wooden benches. Some people find it easier to kneel if you're sitting on the floor. Otherwise, you shouldn't think that the appropriate way to meditate is on the floor. You can use a chair. It works just as well. It's just really a matter of finding a posture that's both comfortable, relatively speaking, and supports alertness. So whatever that looks like for you, given what we have available in the room. And we'll get started in another minute as more folks gather in the room. Good to have all of you online joining in. Today is one of the Sundays when the children's program happens, every other Sunday. So at the very end, the children will come in and sing for us.
Sing for us.
Worth repeating.
Worth repeating.
So let's go ahead and settle into our meditation time. Finding that posture that works for us. That's good enough. It won't be perfect, as you know. That sense of sitting up right in the middle of my life. And it's really an act of courage, our willingness to feel what we're feeling now, moving in our body, heart, and mind. So we're seeing if it's possible to fully embrace being a sensitive human being. What are we sensitive to? We're sensitive to what we're feeling now, what's moving in our life right here and now. And we don't have to explain it. We don't have to be able to articulate what's moving. We just need to explore if it's safe to simply feel or to be touched by what's moving now. And one way we can do that is just explore this capacity we have to soften, to drop some of the defensiveness, some of the armor, some of the tightness, as if this is our way of saying, yes, for me right now it's like this, it feels like this. So we're learning at least to say yes to the conditions in our life, in our body, in our mind that are moving now. Yes, it's like this. It feels like this now. Can this be okay to be close, even intimate with what's moving? And actually, we're not trying to release the tension, the holding that we might notice. It's actually more simple. We're expressing a willingness to be close to whatever tension, whatever holding there is to be felt. And of course, this may lead to letting go. But can we be willing to be close So whatever tension is here, for example, even if it doesn't soften, even if it doesn't release, can there be an acceptance? Simply because it is this way. For each of us right now, it actually is this way, feels this way. So in an ongoing way, we're exploring if we can be right in the middle of what we're feeling, moment by moment by moment. There's a very subtle but important pleasure. It's the pleasure of not running from our life, the pleasure from non-distraction. Not needing things to be different. Breathing in, experiencing the whole body as best you can. Breathing out, experiencing the whole body just as it is. We don't have to go looking for the bodily experience. It's here and now. So whatever that is for each of us in this moment, we're breathing in as if we were saying, yes, it's like this. Breathing out, yes, it feels like this. Can this be okay to just allow the conditions of the body to be the way they are? The pleasant, the unpleasant, all the neutral sensations, nothing left out. And of course, we're going to notice probably different tendencies to resist, to react, to want to fix. We can cultivate this way of relating where we're harmonizing with the way it is in the body. Breathing in, allowing the body to be. Breathing out, allowing the body to be the way it is. It's already like this. And notice the pleasure of not being in conflict with the body in any way. This willingness to allow. And be willing to begin again and again and again. Breathing in, allowing the body to be the way it is. Breathing out, this all embracing acceptance of the body just as it is. So in a way, we're encouraging this healing between the mind, the heart that knows and feels, with the body that's being felt, the experience here and now. So that the mind, the heart is no longer in conflict, no longer having this controlling relationship with the body. So one of the instructions the Buddha suggests for us is, while we're breathing in, training the mind, training the heart to be calming, to have a calm relationship with the body. And as we breathe out, calming the body, again, through this calming way of being with the sensations of the body. And as much as you can, really appreciate that sense of bodily calm, that sense of embodied well-being. Each time you breathe in, each time you breathe out. It's really an important spiritual skill to be able to keep that bodily calm, that bodily well-being, to be able to keep it in mind, no matter whatever else is coming and going. So noticing the settledness in the body as you breathe in and breathe out, the sense of well-being, the sense of calm, And let it naturally blossom into a lightness, this joyful interest, joyful presence, buoyant quality in our heart. So that's the next instruction the Buddha offers us while breathing in, experiencing joy. While breathing out, learn how to tune into joy, to keep it in mind. This lightness of heart. And once again, allow it to deepen, to widen, to spread as you keep it in mind. As if the heart itself has a simple, beautiful smile, that you're sensing that lightness of heart as you breathe in and as you breathe out. And remember, you can use a phrase like the phrase experiencing joy. You can repeat that as you breathe in, repeat it silently as you breathe out, if that support is helpful. And then we take up the training, breathing in, experiencing this ease, this more resonant or calm ease of the heart, sukha. Breathing out, experiencing this ease of the heart. There's more the flavor of contentedness, not needing things to be different. See if that's possible to experience the happiness of contentment as you breathe in and as you breathe out. The heart that is settled, the heart that has a deep sense of being okay. And to the degree there's that sense of ease as we breathe in and breathe out, changes how the mind relates to mental activity, to thoughts, thinking. Just more dispassion, more spaciousness about the mental activities, the thoughts that come and go. Just thinking, thinking being known. Less and less dependent on these mental thoughts and other mental activities. Almost like background sound. Simply because we're noticing this capacity for ease, this inner happiness. So we can appreciate the quietude as we breathe in, the relative quietude as we breathe out. And for the last couple of minutes, allowing things to be as simple as they can be. It's really okay to put things down, to allow things to be simple. And to enjoy the peace or the calm that's available. And take a moment, move your body a little bit if you want. Good to see everybody this morning. We're all squeezed in here in the room. Plenty of space on Zoom, I'm sure. And just so people know, there are 4 weekly practice groups at the center each week. So I usually teach on Sunday mornings when I'm in town. Shelley Graff, the other guiding teacher, teaches Sunday evenings. They also teach Wednesday evenings. And then I teach on Tuesday evening, but it's only on Zoom. So there are different times to catch both Shelley and me teaching when we're around, which is most of the time. And then we have practice check-ins, because for sure on Sunday morning, we don't have Q&A time at the end of the talks. So, but I'm always around at 4:30, usually with Wynn Fricke, my partner and one of our longtime Dharma teachers here, at 4:30 to 5:30 on Sunday. And then Stacy McClendon usually leads practice check-in at 12 noon on Tuesdays. Shelley Graff in person on Wednesday mornings, I think 9, or maybe 8:30 to 9:30 it is. And then also Shelley does Friday morning, every other Friday morning, there's a practice check-in. Again, it's around 9 a.m. So you just check our public calendar to get the details on both those weekly practice groups where there's a Dharma talk. And then the practice check-ins, it's a guided meditation usually, and then a Dharma discussion, time for a Q&A, and just people sharing their own practice. So, and of course, there are many other programs that are available for folks. So as I mentioned last week, I wanted to give another talk on tranquility. I started last week, so this will be talk 2 of 2 for tranquility. And as I mentioned last week, it's a pretty radical thing to move through life with some degree of calm. And you might, we might even get some pushback because a calm person is disturbing or agitating to people who are restless. Have you noticed, like when we're the agitated one and somebody is really settled? Because there's something about calm, and this is really useful in terms of why calm and tranquility is so supportive of the deepening of wisdom and kindness. There's something about it that is reflective. So whether we are ourselves calm, and then if something arises in my experience that triggers, one of the less than wholesome habits of mine, then with that base of calm, I'm going to notice what's gotten triggered in me much more easily. If I had been agitated, if I had been sort of in my more normal distracted mode, then I probably wouldn't have noticed an unwholesome habit getting triggered. But when we're settled, we really notice it. And it's the same interpersonally. So if somebody in the room, we're with a bunch of folks and somebody is really comfortable in their own skin, they're settled, they're clear, it's like less easy for people to act out, because that person, that calm person, sort of, we all notice our reactivity more readily because there's somebody in the room who's really settled and not getting caught up in whatever, the disturbance or agitation is about. Now, it's important for me to say, just because people can be mistrustful at calm, there is a calm that isn't helpful. And that's when we're imitating, like we think, oh, I should be calm. I've been doing my Buddhist practice now for 40 some years. I should be calm, And so we imitate being calm, right? And that obviously is unskillful. Nobody wants to be around somebody who's trying to look calm. In the same way, we don't want to be around somebody who's trying to look compassionate. It's really unpleasant to be around, even to be around ourselves when we're doing that, let alone around somebody else, right? Because it's tight to think I should be calm when I'm not feeling calm. The way we cultivate calm is we come into relationship with what's moving internally and externally in the moment, right? That's really the definition of calm. Now, we learn how to be calm often by retreating away from what's agitating, but that's a training mechanism. I'm going to take a walk in the woods, a nice place that I know is safe, nice color in the leaves, flickering of light through the leaves that are turning color and all that. And those conditions aren't going to be triggering for me, and I'm going to be able to experience some calm. But the idea isn't to become dependent on that walk through the woods, or maybe you pick up knitting, I'm going to knit, and that activity, I'll absorb into that activity. These are really useful training mechanisms, just like samatha meditation practice. So that's one category of meditation practice, like I walked us through to some degree today from the Anapanasati Sutta, in an informal way, these first 8 steps that are really about calming the bodily formations and calming the mental formations. So we can do that, like in our meditation practice, we practice retreating from thinking what we would otherwise be thinking, worrying about what we take a vacation. Oh, I'm sitting, I'm doing my meditation practice. I'm doing specifically my calming meditation practice, where I'm emphasizing calming the body and the mind. So this is not the time to think about my to-do list or this particular relationship. It's not like it's wrong to think about my to-do list or my relationships or whatever, the state of the world. It's just that it's also very useful to take a vacation from those things. But you know how it is. It's like Gabe Keller-Flores, one of our teachers, and Shelley Graff are going to be teaching a workshop on media. And then for those who are interested, we're going to have a week of media fast, whatever that means for you. Each person will decide, and I'll meet with that group the following Sunday. But it's like just knowing how to retreat from the obligation we feel when we're close to our cell phones, and knowing that there may be something there. So like we wouldn't argue you should never look at a cell phone. But we also would probably, those of us who have been caring about our distracted and wired and fragmented mind for a while, we also know it's really nice to take vacations from that. Like when we go on retreat, we often have a big basket and we tell people, this is the place where the cell phones have a retreat. So you shut off your cell phone, you put it in the basket. Of course, if there's an emergency, you know where the basket is, you can go get it. But presuming there's no emergency, let the cell phone have a retreat. And then we also get a retreat from that relationship we have, with social media and everything else. So this is like we don't want to confuse the training mechanisms with the deeper experience of tranquility. But we don't want to be dismissive of all the ways we can train in tranquility. We're basically, initially, we're retreating from what's triggering, what's agitating, just like we do every night when we try to get a good night's sleep. We try to retreat from what's going to activate the mind. Because if you're activating your mind, you're not going to get a good night's sleep. So some people even start a couple hours before they're going to go to bed, sort of starting that retreating process. They have a whole ritual, different people. They might take a bath, or they might listen to soothing music, or they might do some, tranquil exercises like Tai Chi or Qigong or some gentle yoga, or whatever people do. That alone would be a good conversation, just to hear how people start to shed all that's extra so the mind and body can rest. Because if we're activated, that stress response, we feel threatened. And it's not so much the wild animals that we're threatened by, but our to-do lists and difficult interactions that we have to have in the future, and painful things that have happened in the past that we haven't fully resolved. These things, obviously, we all know, they haunt us and we're disturbed. So how do we get a break from that? One of the things that happens for some of us, at least when we're in nature, is, when we're walking through the woods or whatever it might be, it's still, woods are messy, there's life eating life in the woods. But there's something like it as a symbol. It reminds us that everything is happening on its own, and somehow, amazingly, it's okay. We don't get upset about. I was walking through the woods at Common Ground has a beautiful retreat center about 83 miles east of here. I was just out there most of the last 2 weeks teaching. And I did get a chance to walk through the woods a few times. We have 46 acres and pretty mature woods. And, you see these big trees that have toppled over. And sometimes, they'll take down other trees. There was one bigger tree that was pretty rotten already, had been dead for a while. But when it finally got blown over, then a nice young maple that maybe was a little less than 12 inches in diameter, so pretty big, got bent over. And it's like, oh, like it sort of triggered that part of my heart that got agitated, like I should fix this. All the weight of that dead tree, big old dead tree, on this nice maple. And I like maples, right? I have a preference for maples. These hardwood trees that have lots of color, we should get in there and cut down that old thing so it's not causing the maple to almost fall over. But mostly when we're in the woods, we just trust that it knows what it's doing. And we don't have to intervene, right? That's part of what's so calming. It's like, it's all happening on its own, and I don't feel any personal responsibility to fix it or to even judge it, although we do. Like we have our preferences. Bigger trees are better than smaller trees, and all those sort of things. So in terms of the discussion this week and last week on tranquility, do we have a sense of how each of us, how I can retreat from what's triggering for me? What works for you? Where you can basically discover the mind that isn't being, where greed and hate and aversion and fear and distractedness, it's not getting triggered. So I think Stephen Batchelor coined the phrase, the marriage of intimacy and non-grasping. Because we want an activity where the mind, the heart can be really there, really intimate. But the habits of greed, the habit of aversion isn't getting triggered. So I'm really present, but the way I'm relating isn't affected or contaminated with greed or aversion. So what are those activities for each of us? Strangely, it might be for some of you washing dishes. You know, it's just like I can lose myself. Really what we mean is I can lose greed and hate and just wash the dishes. And for others of us, that would be activating. Like, why isn't my partner washing these dishes? Or, you know, those of you with kids, why aren't my kids washing these dishes? I made the meal. You know, they should be doing these dishes. Same thing, like woods may be activating for some people, but not for others. One thing I think I highly recommend, I mean, it's not for everyone, but it's really been important for me over the many years, is lying down on my back a couple times a day in the middle of the day. And preferably right when I seem to have a lot to do. It's like a radical act when I'm thinking all this stuff I have to do, and then I'm willing to go lie down for 10 minutes, usually not on a bed, so just on a, you know, on a carpet somewhere or a rug somewhere, but comfortable. You know, I lie in a way that's comfortable for my body. And I just, over the years, you know, I've given myself, okay, you have 5 to 20 minutes to, as long as it's comfortable for you, to go to zero. And by that, I mean, it's like open to the experience of nobody having to do anything, right? And just enjoying the pleasure of nobody having to do anything. Just feeling the body and the effect of gravity on the body, and just that simplicity of nobody having to do anything. And that might be activating initially for some of you, right? Because maybe there's a strong identification with being somebody who has to do something. So it is a little bit like a death, right? That pattern, which of course is a very deep pattern, to be somebody who has to do something, has to cease. It has to die for a period of time. We have to feel comfortable letting it go to zero for a period of time. Oh, this can be put down. And to really see that as a gift to yourself and a gift to the world, that I live in a world, I have a life where it's okay to cease being somebody who has something to do for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And then it's like we get good at it if you do it enough, and it's like you're reborn. So for the rest of the afternoon or whatever, it's like there's something about going to zero and starting over again. It's the same, you know, there's all sorts of little tricks to this. Like even if you stay sitting at your work desk or standing, if you've got one of those standing desks, you know, but just to take the attention off whatever it is you're working on and to do something else. Gabe and I and other leaders met yesterday, all the people who lead practice periods at Common Grounds Retreat Center. And, you know, one of the things we did, or I did right at the beginning when I was leading a guided meditation, is I just, because these are people in our community who have spent a lot of time out at the retreat center. And it's quite nice. We have a beautiful hay field sort of surrounding the building, and mature woods with, there's a lot of topography. So you see the hills and some, you know, sense of space and big open sky and some very large white pines that are close by the building. You hear the wind through them. So there are a lot of, for many of us, what we would consider pleasing sense experiences that don't trigger a lot of being somebody who has to do something. I mean, those of us who are responsible feel that, but the retreatants, you know, people who aren't actually in charge of the place, they can feel like, oh yeah, it's really conducive of calm. And I, even in this Zoom meeting, everyone at their home, we were on Zoom together, but just the memory, just remembering, like some of you can do right now, like seeing an open field of grass kind of swaying in the breezes, or hearing the sound of wind through trees, or feeling the kind of awe-inspiring height of some of the mature trees that we've seen, or just the verdant greenness of, woods, forests, or that kind of earthy smell that we smell when we're walking, a sort of tang of decomposing stuff that probably, from deep history, we have a real connection with, having lived so close to the earth for so long. So just those memories can be soothing for the system, the nervous system. In the same way that if we brought to mind concrete sidewalks and people's litter having been left there, and a loud big car driving by way too fast, and other things would have a different effect. Bringing those memories to mind would have a different effect. I mean, think about like a spiritual curriculum. Probably one of the first, study sessions or whatever would be mastering the skill of tranquility. We should know how to experience tranquility. Like we did in kindergarten. I don't know about you, but I went to kindergarten in North Minneapolis at Loring Elementary, some of you know. And we had to carry, I guess this was back in the mid-60s, early 60s, we had to carry little mats with us. I guess we left him there because we'd do our little nap every day in our 4-hour kindergarten session. I don't know how many people did, if they'd even do that anymore, but we used to do that at our school. What a nice thing. Okay, everybody lies down. The teacher would turn the lights off, or at least dim them. And I don't know how long it was, but probably, 10 or 15 minutes. It's like families have a little moment of silence before they eat their meals. What are we going to do to express our value of calm? Because culturally, we do so much that values intensity. I mean, when we think about sports and we think about art, provocative art, music, a lot of what gets our attention, like news and media, are things that are provocative, that are intense, intensely this or intensely that, but there's just something about intensity. And so we could say that we've equated intensity with feeling alive. Now, the thing about spiritual tranquility, as opposed to what we might think tranquility is, we might associate tranquility a lot with dullness. But in a Buddhist sense, in a spiritual sense, tranquility isn't dull. Tranquility is this experience of a lot of energy, but nobody having to do anything with it. So there's a lot of brightness, but everything's balanced. The energy's balanced. So when have you felt really alive and really settled? I think I mentioned last week, some people might do a sauna and then do cold water and then back into the sauna, back and forth a couple of times, or do a plunge. And you can get just the beginnings of that sense of feeling really good. So the system feels really settled, but you're not sleepy. You're not dull. The mind's not dull. It's very clear. This is like the very basis of competence. I was talking to our treasurer the other day, and he has a job that is really intense in the world of finance. But he was saying that this firm he works for, they have these real strict culture around keeping everybody's mind balanced. I think he said that most people in the firm meditate, but it's like the culture is no sugar in the workplace because people are making important decisions that impact the firm and everyone. And so they don't want people's minds all over the place. Because there's a lot of, when in our lives, it's like gain and loss is addicting. So if we're in the realm where we could lose a relationship or we could gain a relationship that we want, or lose money or gain money, or lose status or gain status, it sort of triggers this intensity, this sort of animal, like, I don't want to blow it kind of energy. And so we have this, like, tranquility has to be developed so that it can handle all of that triggering, because that triggering is just going to be part of our life. It's not going to go away. And it starts by our willingness to value it. Like, we need to cultivate an understanding where we're not unaware of tranquility and not dismissive of tranquility. Like, it's easy to think, oh, people who are tranquil, they don't have any responsibilities. Or people who are tranquil aren't really paying attention. Or people who are tranquil are deluded. They don't realize what a dog-eat-dog world it is, or they don't, whatever we might tell ourselves. So we need to reform that understanding so we start having the sense that, well, and we don't want to believe it, but we want to be open. Maybe tranquility is exactly like that deeper, wiser tranquility is exactly what I need to be able to be fully in my life. Because that's a shadow, where we think tranquility depends on those training mechanisms to be disconnected, to be lying down. Oh yeah, if only I could be lying down doing my deep relaxation, then I'd be tranquil. But that's a training, right? So when we feel the tranquility, the takeaway is maybe this balance, maybe this sense of calm and ease can be here no matter what I'm doing. Yeah, I reconnected with it because I took a walk in the woods, or I did a deep relaxation, or I spent 20 minutes knitting, or I did my meditation practice. But maybe this sense of being collected and grounded and settled and this ease, well, maybe this can be maintained even through all the twists and turns, all the triggers that come. I mean, probably if we thought about it enough, and this is another thing that would really be good to discuss with your Dharma friends, people who practice that but like times in the past, situations that would have been really activating for me, and now, 10 years later, whatever, those things can happen, but I don't lose my balance. I don't lose my calm. Oh yeah, I would have freaked out, but now this happens and I don't freak out. Oh, that's inspiring when we see that, or we see it in another person too, like how they're going through a lot in their life, but they seem pretty balanced and calm. They're not assuming because things are so uncertain or so insecure in their life, the presumption is, oh, they're going to lose it. They're losing it. They're not holding it together. We have all these different ways of talking about it. But then when we see somebody, oh yeah, that's possible. And maybe like if going from A to B is possible, maybe even it's possible to go from A to Z, where there is nothing that can arise that disturbs our calm. And this is synonymous in the way we understand, awakening, nibbana, or nirvana, the sort of nth degree of practice is this unconditional peace, no matter the conditions. And like everything in practice, if we're interested in that heart that is clear and intimate not afraid to feel what we're feeling, no matter the conditions, and we have to practice that. Can I be with this? You know, something is triggering us. We're not going to pretend that I'm not angry. We're not going to pretend that I don't have a lot of greed. Oh, this might happen. I'm so, you know, okay, this is happening. These emotions are getting triggered. Can this be okay? So we're not trying to run away from what's gotten triggered, the emotion that's gotten triggered in us, but we're staying close, like maybe being a human being, maybe sometimes greed or hate is going to get triggered, right? Can I be with it? See, that's the thing. It's not about repressing these very human emotions. It's learning to not be confused by them. That is the potential of our practice, not being confused. And that's what supports the calm. So again, the first step is we have to, you know, just do those practical things that allow us to touch into the experience of calm, whatever it is. So we build confidence. Oh yeah, this feels good. Being settled feels good. Because of our addiction to intensity, this is not a small first task. To develop a relationship with tranquility, serenity, calm, where you have a deeper sense of trust. Oh yeah, this belongs in my life. Where have you been? I need you. Like we need to have that sense, like, I don't want to forget you. Like when we experience real calm, that should be the takeaway. Like, oh yeah, I really don't want to forget you. I don't want to forget that this way of being is a possibility for this body and mind as I go forward. How can I remember? Right? That's a lot of what brings us back to our next sitting, you know, to get up in the morning a little earlier so we can have some time, or to get on a Buddhist retreat. I'll be leading the day long this coming Saturday, by the way, and the half day next month. Usually Shelley and I just alternate who's leading the day long or half day retreats each month. And lots of possibilities out at the retreat center as well. So, you know, it's like that first step of I'm in relationship with tranquility. That means I understand its value. I don't want to forget its value. And we just get better at understanding how can, in my life, which, you know, is none of our lives are perfect, they're all limited, but in the conditions of my life, how can I find the supporting conditions so I can keep tasting the experience of calm and tranquility, keep in relationship with it. And then once we do that piece, then it supports the second part, not believing that a particular situation in my life where there is a lot of agitation or is a lot of greed and aversion, well, maybe there can be, maybe the heart, body, mind can be tranquil here too. So that's where we're exploring, like, what does it mean? It's like being in an intense interaction. I mean, now it's a pretty deep habit. As soon as things start to get a little heated in any sort of interaction, now it's just like an instinct. Feel the body. Drop into the experience of the body. Because there's a deep habit now to be, when I'm aware of what my body feels like let's say I'm standing, to feel the body standing. There's a deep habit not to be in conflict with what I'm feeling in my body. So I come back to the body and there's like, well, can I be okay? My body's like this. And, you know, because it's an intense interaction, its body's probably tight in some ways that we probably, all of us probably recognize, like how our body starts to get tight. Maybe you lift your shoulders, maybe you clench your throat area or your anus or belly, or, you know, these typical places that we lock up the body when we get charged or frightened or excited. Oh, okay, the body's like this. Can it be okay? See, without even saying that, it's just like, and then because we have this harmonious, let's call it, relationship with how the body is right now, then maybe I can stay settled and harmonious with this charged interaction I'm in the middle of, right? Or other people might just have a sense of space. And the whole world of trauma, you know, that's one of the things they train people when their trauma might be getting triggered, is to just look around a little bit and just have a sense, oh yeah, I'm here in this space. Maybe it's okay. Maybe the body, heart, mind can be slightly less defended. Maybe it's okay to soften. Is it okay to soften? Is it okay to relax? So we want to start, this is the second part of practice, is not to believe the thought like we're postponing. Well, I'll get back to calm later, but this is really important. You know, my favorite show is on. Or whatever it is. It's like amazing what how we mostly unconsciously justify being tight. You know, I've been cooking my meal for 20 minutes and now it's ready. And it's like, because I'm excited, it's like, I have to be tight. No, you don't have to be tight. But it's not an instinct, but it's the habit to be tight. Maybe it's okay to relax. Maybe I can even pause for a few seconds. So I do that now more and more. Just it's a habit that's developed. Like after I've cooked and my meals are ready and I set it down, I've got my napkin there and the silverware there, and then I'll go do some task. I just let it sit. It's like I've learned. I mean, this is like rocket science for us humans, but you know, how many times have I eaten it and burnt my tongue? So just let it settle. I'm going to go do some stuff for a while. I'll go and it will be just the right temperature. And I will have demonstrated that even though there's a beautiful sense, delight sitting there on the table, I don't have to, I'm not that desperate animal. I am, but I don't have to water that part of my conditioning, right? Because there's another part of my conditioning, which is I'm this calm animal that is okay postponing a sense delight, like getting to eat my lunch or whatever it might be. This, you know, a lot of people can be dismissive of tranquility because, you know, what we're interested, we're a Buddhist, we're interested in experiencing how everything is empty of self and just this liberation of a not projecting, you know, self-centeredness into every moment of our lives. Because it's very, even on an intellectual level, that idea is very compelling. But just as ordinary human beings, to develop a relationship with tranquility is often a very radical thing for us to do and a huge step along the path for us over time to develop this very real personal relationship with tranquility where we know how to find it, we know how to keep it in mind through all parts of our day. It's like our dear friend, we keep it close. And we tease out all the ways it can get stinky, like I mentioned, where we're imitating being tranquil, or we get overly dependent on the retreating part, like, oh, no, I can't do that because I really value tranquility, so I'm not going to go to that concert with you, or I can't go to bars, or, you know, I can't have these colors in my bedroom because they agitate me. And we know this is like not an uncommon side effect for people who practice, is that they start to feel really sensitized, which is unavoidable. It comes with practice, and it's good to be really sensitive. But that just means we have to deepen our understanding of tranquility, because we start noticing all of what's agitated, right? We sense it in other people, we sense it in ourselves, but we're not getting triggered by it because we know how to be okay with the conditions as they are. So if you find yourself, like, as you develop your relation with tranquility, that you can't do anything in the world because it's agitating, you know, and you end up in your little soft pod with no sounds and no noxious, you know, anything, you know, then okay. So I have a relationship with tranquility, but it's very dependent relationship, dependent on conditions. I want tranquility that's not dependent on conditions. I want calm. I want balance that's not dependent on conditions. Even though initially learning how to retreat from what's noxious and agitating is really good, we don't want to get dependent on that. I see the children are here to sing for us. I'll leave it here. And we'll invite the kids in. Go ahead. You could just let them know to come on in. And then for folks who want to stay for the small groups, I think Lucy is probably here for those of you online. It's a great way to get to know some people in the community. These groups last for 15 minutes. Just a chance to share with each other your learnings and your response from the talk around tranquility today. And people here in the room